Okay, so we continuing our discussion on the topic of non-violence of Mahavir. What is non-violence? So we covered a lot of things last lecture, and the way Mahavir looks at life is not just what we see. Life is a lot more than the physical forms that we see. We see the body, but we know that people have souls, people have feelings, people have minds, people have thoughts. So he says that not just the physical violence is the violence. There is more to violence than just not physically hurting somebody. It's a no-brainer. You don't want to hurt somebody. No question about that. But he says it's a lot deeper than that. You can hurt somebody at the mind level also. You can, by saying something, you could hurt somebody's feelings. And so that way, he takes the non-violence very deep. And the reason he does that, he does look at the whole life in its totality. He doesn't differentiate between the body and the soul, and you can say body is separate, soul is separate. That's why we went discuss the chicken and egg discussions. When people always ask what came first, chicken or the egg, and say, well, for a chicken to be born, the egg has to be there. For the egg to be born, the chicken has to be there. So who is the first? But it's not really a practical question. It's a question raised by only the people who have material mind, because they think that this is all there is. Even between the people, there is a differentiation. It's the father, then the son is born, and then his son is born, and it goes on and all that. But there is more to it than just two separate entities. Chicken is already holding the egg inside in a primitive form, which becomes manifest at one time. And the chicken is already hidden in the egg, and it will become manifest in its own time. So there is a continuity. Whoever can see this continuity, they can see the whole continuity of life. The consciousness, which is the God, basically, or that infinite existence that is already there, is creating all these different shapes and forms and sizes, and each with their own appearances, but ultimately merging into one large part. So Mahavir, Buddha, Krishna, all those look at the life in its total aspect. So from that point of view, you can say that you, as you are right now, you're carrying millions of genes that has been carrying the impressions from previous animals, previous existences. A lot of things are carried by you up to this point. Your hands, your fingers, your eyes, everything had been evolved over millions of years of evolution. And you're carrying those things. And yet, you are a link that will carry on these messages from millions of animals which died before. And you're carrying this in your present body, and you're passing on to the next generation, and then millions of things to come out after this. So it's like a continuous process, and you're a tiny dot. When you realize in its totality, you are nothing. You are just a small link that you are part of that continuous evolution that is going on. Not just at the physical level, at the mind level, at intellectual level. All those things are evolving. And when you realize that there is a big consciousness that's taking and doing all these things, creating all these things, and you are part of that creation. So at that point, Mahavir says that expressing yourself as an individual person, sticking out with your own ego and saying that I can kill this animal, I can do this, I can do this, that is a violence. And it's the violence to whom? It's violence to your own soul. When I say that I can kill an animal, Mahavir says, think again. Soul is forever. Soul is amar. Soul cannot die. Body dies. Ant will die, but the soul will take its own another form, another shape, another thing, right? So there is no way to kill anything. Whatever you kill is just the molecules you destroyed, and those molecules will still survive and make another animal or another ant or another person, whatever. So in true speaking, there is no violence. You haven't committed any violence. But the thought that you have at your mind level that you can kill someone, that means you are disregarding this total vast consciousness, which is lot bigger, lot infinite, and lot better than you. And at that level, if you're saying that I can do it, you're fighting against the current. You're disrespecting the total consciousness. You're disrespecting the God. You are manipulated by the God, so-called God. There is no physical God. But this consciousness is making you progress. And when you say, I can do this, so he says that even thought that you can kill is a violence. And violence to nobody else but your own soul. Because your soul, which is a part of this infinite Paramatma, Paramatma, say all the combination of all the souls together, the soul is very delicate, very soft, very gentle. It's trying to express itself, but it's getting clobbered with our ego. Ego says, I am more important than the soul. Soul is very delicate. Soul is very, very soft. And to connect with the soul, you have to make your mind also very soft. You cannot have the ideas which makes the ego stands out. And yet ego is functional. Ego makes you recognize your children. It makes the children recognize the parents. Where to go? Existence is depending on your ego. Ego is a tool that is given to you, but not to exercise yourself as an individual person. So when you start exercising, it's a disrespect to the total consciousness. And Mahavir says that's going to cost you in the samadhi. When you want to reach to the samadhi state in meditation, you have to drop these ideas, drop the ego, and you have to become egoless. When you become egoless, then only you are synchronizing with the soul. And at that level, Paramatma can come into your door. So that's why he says the thoughts that you can hurt someone are the wrong thoughts. It's not only that it's counterproductive, because killing really does not happen at the soul level. Soul is always there. Soul is permanent. Soul is infinite. Soul cannot be destroyed. So what's the point? So equate the whole material life as a dream and your awake state as enlightenment. Let's put it this way. So in awake state, if you say that tonight when I get into my dream, I'm going to hurt people because I'm carrying my vengeances. Now that will look stupid because dreams are dreams. In the dream, I cannot even hurt you, right? So thoughts that I can hurt someone, thoughts that I can kill someone, you are living in the dreams. So in an awake state, the life that we know as we see in a physical form is almost equivalent to a dream. So to exercise your ego, and the ego lives on the material aspects. Ego wants to achieve, ego wants to do this thing, ego wants to do that thing. But then ego is living in a dream. And that's why ego is fake. But that happens when you raise yourself to the higher level of plane. At the spiritual level, when you're synchronizing with consciousness, you realize that all this is a dream. So when the ego makes a decision that I want to kill someone, is living in a dream. So Mahavir says not just killing. Even when you think that I want to hurt someone, or I want to make somebody unhappy, that also is violence. But Mahavir says just the way you cannot kill someone, you cannot make somebody unhappy either. Because being happy and being unhappy is an individual choice. It cannot be given. Happiness that I may have is my own product. Now my happiness may depend on so many things, not necessarily you're trying to make me happy or you trying to make me unhappy. So unhappiness or happiness are also individual states of expression for myself. So Mahavir says that even the thoughts of that you can try to make someone unhappy are also counterproductive. Say if somebody insults me and I want to take a revenge, and then in that revenge I want to hurt someone so that that guy suffers, right? That's the vengeance. Now I have to create so many thoughts. I have to find out the ways to insult the person. All these things I'm gonna go through. I'm living in a dream. It's all dream state, and in that I have to bury my soul. And at the soul level, I cannot reach because I'm so involved in my thoughts to make other people unhappy that I am totally being detached away from the soul. So you're committing violence on your own soul. So when we realize the futility of all these things, the mind starts realizing, I can't kill really someone, I can't make somebody unhappy, then what's the point? What's the point in having all these ideas and thoughts and all that? Little by little, your mind starts regressing. So what is the purpose then? So Mahavir says that, how did you get that idea even, that I can make somebody unhappy? It's from the another exactly opposite thought that I can make other people happy. Just the way you cannot make somebody unhappy, you cannot make anybody happy either. So it's an extremely opposite. And you look all over the world, people are busy making each other happy. He says father and son, mother and son, brothers to brothers, spouse to spouse, friends to friends. There is a continuous efforts going on all the time that we are trying to make each other unhappy or happy. So all this sansar has been going on. So if you try to make somebody happy, it becomes counterproductive also. No matter how much you do for them, their definition of happiness may not be exactly your definition of happiness, but we try to make them unhappy happy anyway, and in that process they don't necessarily become happy, but our efforts are bringing us into the sansar. And we saying that, and we become the doer. So everybody has their own right, not only to live. They don't want to commit murders, not even to an ant. Ant is living in its own prideful way. It's finding its own food. It's totally relying on itself. You don't have to do anything for it. Even if you don't feed the ant is going to find its own food. It has all the rights to exist in its own way that it is doing right now. You have no right to interfere with its existence. The same way we apply that to our near beings and the friends. So everybody has right to find their true happiness, but by throwing our ideas of happiness on them, we are interfering, we're taking away their independence. Including to the point that whatever they do, they become unhappy. For example, they did something, but it is up to them to find out whether it is something that is made me unhappy. I will not do that again in the future again, so that will not make me unhappy anymore. So, but that's an experience that they have to go through. And once through the experience, if they learn, that's a real learning. And that will ultimately, but to provide that freedom itself is the non-violence. So when you encroach upon somebody's minds and ideas and all that, you're exchanging at the mind level. And what are you giving them anyway? If you say that your idea of happiness is such and such, is it your idea of happiness or you borrowed it from someone? Say you are born in a Hindu family. You go into the temple and say, yes, that makes me feel good. So you tell your children, say, okay, do the same thing. So you are satisfied that your children are doing what you believed was the happiness. You ask the kid, for him it doesn't really matter. He said, I would rather go to, whatever, swimming pool. His idea of happiness was not that, but we forced him. Now, whatever, yeah. So whatever you're throwing on somebody else was not your idea of happiness anyway. So your ideas of happiness are the borrowed ideas of happiness. It makes everybody happy that, oh, my children are doing this and they are on the right track. They got sanskar, this and that and all that. But they are doing routinely. That becomes ritual for them. They're doing only because it pleases your parents. So parents are happy, so he says everything is fine. But it's not fine. Inside there is a big conflict. He may not even find it interesting or happiness. And then he wants to do something else. He wants to go and play with the butterflies. But he said, no, you have to go to the temple. Come on, let's go. So we force our ideas on other people. And that's violence, according to Mahavir. When you cannot provide freedom to your children or spouse or friends, respect, irrespective of whether they fit in your ideas of happiness, are you respecting them as a soul or not? If you do that, you're recognizing the soul. The soul is the ultimate expression of God. But soul will create. Soul will express itself only if the mind does not come in between. But our minds are so saturated with ideas and the ideas of happiness, and we keep exchanging all these things. That's how big and big communities of Christianities and Hinduism and Sikhism and all these are created. For what? Just so that we fit with each other. That's it. Now that's no way you're going to reach enlightenment. Not one thinker, not one person who reached enlightenment had followed their own previous religions. Think about it. Mahavir was Kshatriya. He didn't start Jainism. He started Jainism. He was not a Jain. What he found became Jainism. Buddha was again Hindu. He could have followed Krishna. There was a big tradition of Vedas and everything was going on. He broke away from it.
Not a single religion is set up by the
Exactly.
gods.
Not
If you check the history.
Jesus Christ was a Jew. He broke away and he had his own thinking. Whatever he learned from inside was the expression of the soul. More often than not, people think that what if the soul is left alone by itself? It's just, soul will always create something. The soul in its purest form is very active, is very energetic, full of energy. We are wasting our energy borrowing ideas from other people, trying to fit into the society. You go to the party and friend says, come on, you got to have a drink. Why not? This and that. Say, okay, why not? We are spending our precious energy on all these things where the same energy we could have inverted and go within and find our soul. We will be creating a lot of things. But instead of doing that, we're just copying each other. And there is no difference between that or a guru trying to look for more shishyas because they believe in certain thing. So now he says, the more people are, what actually is happening? You go to a party, right? And the friends are drinking. And he says, come on, you have to drink. Now inside, you're telling you, it's your inside telling you that you don't want to drink, but you're doing it for others. Now what are they trying to do? They don't really care whether you drink or not. As long as they get their black label, they are happy. But the fact that you also go along with them, that ego gets satisfied, that whatever we're doing is okay.
It's correct.
So they get a justification for so it's an expansion.
Acceptance.
It's an expansion of their own ego, and that's ego game going on all the time. And according to Mahavir, that is violence. He says not only making other people follow your ideas is a violence, but you following other ideas is a violence to your own soul. You are not listening to your own soul and you accepting ideas from the others. Those ideas makes your mind going, mind becomes active and then suppresses the soul from expressing itself. That's violence. So non-violence is a very complicated thing and we commit violence every single day. And you think that somebody's idea coming into your head does not create a monster? Look at this example, Chatwal, the guy who owned Bombay Palace, right? And then he has expanded into real estate. He owns like 30-40% of the hotel rooms in Manhattan. Multi-billionaire, $20 million yacht, whatever, and then he has a jet plane and everything. His son, he was in the newspaper. So this guy could not handle all this excess, right? So got into drinking and drugs and all these things, Hollywood actresses and this and that, and recently got caught on possession of the drugs and all these things. And then they almost put him in a jail, but they know Clintons are their close friends and they go into White House and Clinton comes to their house and all those things. So things happened and basically everything was shut out and he was not put in a jail, otherwise he would have gotten a year in jail. Now he has everything you ask for. Now a friend of mine, he's a close friend of him also, and he tells him, he says, the first drink that you gave it to him, because he was underage or whatever, I don't know, but I'm just saying, the father sharing a drink with the son, you may think it's a very innocent event, but you just don't know what it can multiply into in the future. So his father's idea of happiness may be that at that moment, but the world changes, and that idea of happiness was transferred to somebody else in their mind, and then multiplying into a monstrous lifestyle. Now, I mean, the guy is so sorry. So he told him that he should not have, told him to drink or something. He says, how can I tell them when I myself is drinking?
Doesn't it ultimately come down to your ability to control and
Control is not the word.
not control, but your ability to make a decision about
Participation.
what you
Exactly.
do.
So father and children, parents and children is a very delicate state, right? Where the children are receptive 100% because they have so much faith in you, so much belief in you. So whatever you tell them, they will accept it. Until they have their own mind, you can't expect a 5-year-old, 10-year-old child to make a decision that whatever your father says is not right. That independent thinking has not started yet. So they will do whatever you tell them to do. So Mahavir says that your ideas of happiness may be different than their ideas of happiness. What we can do is you become happy first yourself. Are you happy? If you are happy, then happiness will come out of you. And true happiness is unconditional happiness. You don't need alcohol to be happy. If your happiness is related to the objects, that's not happiness. Happiness is a state of being. And that's why you have to employ that energy, save that energy from changing people, changing this, changing that, teaching them this and all that. Forget about all these things. Give them freedom. Let them see what comes out of them. Their souls are also very tender. Forcing things on them is just going to mess it up. I had a German family in my practice. And they always drank sensibly, kind of. And their daughter, at the age of 7, started drinking. 7. The parties happen all the time. Drinks are there. Nobody is watching, really. The atmosphere that was created. By the time she was 14, she was an established alcoholic. 14. I admitted her once, she was 16 or something, because she had overdosed on something. I tell you, when I went there to see her, it was the night before, and she was sleeping, she was like an angel. Such a pretty girl. Next morning I went to make my rounds. She had woken up, she was like all over. Very, very restless, and she wants this because she wasn't getting her kick in the hospital. Very restless, very agitated, this and that, and shouting and this and that, like turned into like demoness. It was like wild. And I took her history and all that, and she was proudly telling me this, Dr. Shah, I have tried anything under the sun. Half of the things you would not even know what they are. She had tried wild mushrooms to get high. See, there you go. What's that? I didn't know. There are wild mushrooms that you can take that has a psychedelic effect, that you can get hallucinogenic effect. And that's only one of them.
So it's a mushroom, or it's the name of
No,
the drug?
it's mushroom. It's actual mushroom. They are grown for that purpose. It's a natural thing, but it is for that purpose. Marijuana is a natural thing also. Hashish is a natural thing too.
Where you buy them?
I don't know.
I was asking the same question.
Next time I come across her, I'll tell you.
But mushrooms are considered poison.
Some. But again, in what? How much amount? How much amount?
That's what I said.
Yeah, but there are so many different varieties of mushroom. But the point is, she tells her parents, and a lot of times she has been on streets. His parents cannot handle her. They say, no, you cannot come home. So she goes on the streets for days and days and weeks, and comes out even worse than she was before, and she stands on the streets and looking for money, whatever, So it's just total life ruined. So what we can do is create an environment which is not dependent on objects to be happy. And why we have environments around which is objects dependent is because our true inner happiness is not there. Why would somebody drink? Because they feel that there is something lacking in me. There is some dissatisfaction at the deeper level that will be satisfied if I drink. And I'm drinking alcohol just for one reason, just to as a talk. There are so many things we're doing wrong.
Yeah.
Throwing bhaktis, it may sound good, but say throwing, you have to believe in this God or this guru or whatever, So we're doing all these things. The objects change, doesn't matter. Mahavir is very deep. Mahavir says that at the soul level, whatever ideas you are exchanging between yourself, what you do something and somebody follows is one thing. But when you say that this is the way it has to be, is wrong. So we do all these things. We commit crimes all the time. The thing is, do you do anything in your life that is not object dependent, that is not people dependent? People, objects, and situations. If you need any of these three things to be happy, that means you have unhappiness within you and you're trying to fill it by doing these things. If your life is filled with all these things, starting from Haagen-Dazs to, Vasudhi or Muthai and all that, or alcohol, or bhakti, or artificial lifestyle, whatever, something that was given to you by somebody else. If you never tasted Coke in your life, I bet you will never be desirous for Coke or whatever. I'm just saying. But because you are in this society, somebody passed it along to you, you tasted it, and if you lived in Africa jungle, you wouldn't even care what you're drinking. Even getting a sip of water would be a luxury because you have to walk 5 miles. So it depends upon your lifestyle. So all these pleasures we have created, we are exchanging the ideas. Oh, come on, it tastes so good. You have to drink this and this and that. And before we're creating, we are only exchanging that. So do you do anything that is in your life that is not dependent on people, objects, or situation? If you have to do bhajan in a jungle, would you do it? No, nobody will do it. If I have 1,500 people sitting with me, so I feel good that I did the right thing, fine. That's one thing. Do you ever go to the temple just to bow down to the god? No. You want people around.
You want food.
And food. But besides that, so you go to the temple, and there are half a temple is full of people, this and that. Everybody's bowing down. You do the same thing. One guy is doing this. One guy is going all the way down. One guy is like sastang danvan, falling all the way. All these things are happening because the other people. If there is nobody else, you will say, okay, God, let's
Hi.
go.
Hi.
Hi, how are you? So true bhakti is not there. So do something in your own life that you will do regardless. It's irrespective of the people, objects, or situation. And if you are doing it, you wouldn't even care if people are following. For example, my jogging, I picked up, right? It doesn't matter is anybody with me or not, I'm going to do it regardless. Now, there was a time my happiness was object dependent. Cheesecake was my favorite. When I started eating wrong things, my son started eating wrong things. He was becoming chubby, he had a little belly here and there and all that. And it was not good. And thank God I realized all these things early enough that I got into running, and my son was like 14. He said, Daddy, can I run with you? So doing something, he follows you is one thing. And supposing he didn't, do you think I would have stopped running? No, I would do it anyway. I'm doing it for my pleasure because it's just my happiness. And I'm expressing it as because of the happiness. It's not that I have to run. If I was doing it because I want to lose weight, then I'm becoming conscious about my body. I'm at the physical plane. But if I want to do it because I just love it for the heck of it, and in that case, it is true non-violent thing because I'm not going to force this idea on anybody else. I'm doing it. If somebody wants to follow, they follow. If they don't, they don't. That's fine too. Like that. So true non-violence can be practiced only at the spiritual level. So there are a lot of things that we have to consider before really practicing non-violence. So what really do we need to practice non-violence? See, it requires a lot of awareness. So exchanging ideas and all these things does not require any awareness. It's a no-brainer. If I'm born in a Hindu family or a Muslim family or a Jain family, doing everything that everybody else is doing is not a brainer. I don't have to use my brain. I just have to do what my parents did, and I just have to pass it on to my kids. You are in an unawareness state. You are not aware of what you're doing. You are unconscious. When you are unconscious, the consciousness is not active. So the more you become aware of what you're doing, and Mahavir calls it apramad. Apramad is really shake yourself up and ask yourself what you are doing. That awareness is needed. If you can, if at all, you can give a gift to your children, is the awareness. But for that, you have to be aware yourself. If you're doing the things subconsciously, unconsciously, then you're not really practicing your awareness. And awareness is a tool that is given to every single person. We all have that capacity within us. And to practice that awareness is the ultimate thing anyone can do. Meditation is nothing but raising your awareness. The more awareness comes, the more pramad will go down, more unconsciousness will go down, and your total lifestyle will be revolving around the awareness. And then all the activities that Mahavir calls violence will start dropping, So Mahavir does not tell you what to do. He doesn't tell you don't kill or kill, don't this, don't that. He doesn't believe in giving any instructions or hard core rules or regulations. All he's saying that be aware. When you're aware, you're not going to be committing. You have to be aware of your own soul. If your own soul is in its full functional awareness state, non-violence is a byproduct. When you have awareness of the presence of your own soul, you will be respecting other people's souls also. But we don't do that. We don't have time. We are so busy doing all these mundane, routine things that has no value. We wake up in the morning, do whatever he has to do, go to the temple, do this, do that. Ritualistic things we do. We go to the work, you do carry out things. As long as the money comes, we are okay. We are not respecting each other at the soul level. We never really practice awareness. And when the routine things we're doing, we don't have time to become aware of your own soul. And when you don't have time, upliftment never happens. So there was one guy who was working in a railway, right? He worked and he became like 80-year-old. He retired at 70-something. But every time a train will pass, he had to count how many wagons were in each train, right? So he retired, and then every time the train passes, he'll say, yeah, these had 10, these had 15. It's just thing of no value. Has no value at all, whether 10 or 15, what difference does it make? So one Sunday, there was a picnic, a family picnic, and the son suddenly noticed that he didn't do the counting. There was a train passed by. He says, Dad, what happened today? Oh, Sunday I don't work. So even after retiring, the work goes on like a routine. We are like a clock. We are like machines. We treat machines better than people who actually have souls. For us, Siri and GPS auntie or iPads have souls. We literally love them, we give them names, and we hug them, and we kiss them. But the people, we don't care.
Yeah.
So awareness of the soul is extremely important. That's what's going to make us go forward. So much for today.